Welcome to the Rebuild Healing from Betrayal workshop. So today we're going to be going over how to actually begin overcoming what you're going through right now. Maybe you've done some therapy work. Maybe you've been talking to people, trying to make sense of everything. Maybe this happened a while ago. Maybe it's fresh. I mean, for everybody, it's going to be a very unique experience. This workshop, I'm going to keep it as tight as I can. We're going to be going over the three major shifts that need to happen in your life from my professional experience and my lived experience to help you actually overcome what you're going through. Now, when I say overcome, it doesn't mean mitigate and move on and just let it go and even forgive or anything like that. We're not talking about that at all. When I say overcome, it is really the energy of harnessing that self-empowerment that you deserve, harnessing that inner security that has sadly probably been stripped away from you, right? The rug has been swept from under your feet. And this workshop, my hope, is that you do walk away with some really tangible things that you can sit with, reflect on, and then build into your life and in your own healing. Maybe right now you are going to therapy, or you have a meditation practice, or you have a self-care practice, or maybe not, right? Maybe every other night it's just devastation and dissociation and numbness. Whatever's happening for you right now is perfectly okay. So this workshop is going to give you the three shifts that you actually need. It's what I share with any of my clients that come into my inner healing coaching program, and they come to me out of betrayal, right? A victim of infidelity, of emotional cheating, of physical affairs, whatever it might be. So in this workshop, all you need to do is just be here. That's it. At the very end of it, I'll stop recording, and you're invited to spend a few minutes with me kind of privately, unrecorded, if you'd like. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. And there will be Q&A after as well, if you'd like. So why I want to do this is because, and I thought about this, I put out my TikTok posts, right? And things kind of blow up, and it resonates with a lot of people, and that's really amazing. And I realized unconsciously I was doing it because I have been a victim of this. Not so much in that I've been betrayed, say, by a partner, but I grew up watching both of my parents betray each other regularly. Both of them always cheating on each other, and it was a very toxic upbringing, and it created in me so many issues in my relationship, in my previous relationships, my current marriage, and it just really inspired me as I kept helping clients and working through all of their parts and helping them transform their wounds. To be like, what's missing so far in my content is how do you actually overcome, and how do you actually rebuild yourself from the ground up? So again, thank you so much for being here today. So betrayal hurts so much for obvious reasons. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and try to just explain to you what you're going through. You know what you're going through, but I do hope that sometimes here and there I can put words to feelings that you might not have been able to, explain. So it hurts so much because betrayal feels urgent. It immediately is like an electric shock, right, to your system. It's immediate, where all of a sudden you have to make decisions. You have to make sense of what you just went through. You immediately have to start replaying and start immediately the investigative loop, right? And your mind won't slow down. It's like you're on a treadmill, and it's really hard all of a sudden, because it hurts so much, to put the pause button on that treadmill, right? And so every decision you make feels life or death, because you've maybe got kids, you've got a house, you've got a mortgage, you've got finances, you've got 20 plus years of experience with them and life with them. You have memories, right? You have all of this stuff that really truly feels like it's just been taken away. And so I do hear from unfortunately, a lot of people that have been betrayed, that they immediately will go into thinking it's about them, or that it's them, that it's their fault, they did something wrong. And it's not true. And it's not a weakness. It's not you being a victim or anything like that. It's actually a physiological response to a traumatic event. Okay. So I know a lot of people kind of shy away and get uncomfortable with the word trauma or PTSD or CPTSD. That's the field I specialize in. And so this is a major relational trauma. And either it's a brand new event, and this event is what's going to cause everything inside of you to then become a trauma or PTSD, or this just uncovers all the old wounds that maybe you've thought you've healed, or you've kind of moved past from, or you've just kind of forgotten about. The first breakup, that first divorce, your parents, the abandonment, any neglect in childhood, all of that stuff comes back out in full force as soon as betrayal hits. So that's why it is so important to even do this kind of work, is because your system is either being reminded heavily of old hurt, and that can feel shocking, coupled with, new present day hurt, or it's out of nowhere hurt that you've never experienced before, right? So that's why it hurts so much, right? It's immediate. And it's immediate, or it's that slow burn of always thinking and assuming and intuitively feeling like something's off. And even though maybe the shoe drops and you figure it out or you find out, that long-winded, slow burn, that doesn't take any of that away. It's still immediate. So no matter who gets hurt in this way, it's an immediate hurt. And that immediacy is a shock to your system. So what's actually happening inside of your system, just like any actual violent event, right? An attack on your soul is no different than a physical attack, is no different than something really terrible happening, even like a car crash, right? This is, in a way, an emotional car crash, right? And so your body goes into shock. It immediately starts leaning into all the different layers of grief, right? You get into panic. You obviously get into shame. Maybe not right away, or maybe right away and then it slowly fades, but shame is there. And then hypervigilance, always looking out. You have a part of you that has to all of a sudden become a private investigator, right? Or you have all these parts of you that just come out of the woodwork all of a sudden. The ones that really do maybe self-blame and self-doubt, or the ones that do fly into rage, right? All of that is your system in crisis, right? All of that is you reacting to a hurt that you can't make sense of, but your parts of you are desperately trying to make sense of. And it absolutely affects your nervous system. Okay. So again, this goes back to, if at all you've ever had the thought, oh my God, I don't recognize myself anymore. Like, I'm feeling crazy, right? It's not because that's true. It's because you're an organism, and your nervous system is literally responding to an extremely terrifying event. So I say this and I kind of hammer it home because you need to know this. This needs to be your truth if it isn't already, right? And that's why a lot of people forget that this is a trauma. And that's why these feelings can linger and last for a long time. I have people coming to me because their spouse cheated 5 years ago and they're still together and they're trying to make it work, but they just can't shake the edginess, the mistrust, the doubt, the self-esteem issues, right? Even though maybe he actually has been trying and it's actually been okay for 5 years, because trauma stays in your system until it can get fully resolved. Okay. So we'll touch on that a little bit later. That's the basis of what's happening. So what's the path forward, right? You're here today as one step, right? Today is one step on the conscious path of you learning to go inward. Because another reality that I've seen is that we naturally point outward, right? We immediately, rightfully so, get into blame and anger towards him. Now, don't worry, I'm not saying that all of a sudden we have to take responsibility for what he did or anything like that. Not at all. You were a victim in this, and I truly believe that. And that's not a weakness. But we start to look at what's outside of us. And you've probably heard this before, but it really does give away our power. It really does put everything in their hands. And that's what we're going to be touching on today. And that's what these three shifts really revolve around. is how to stop externalizing everything and feeling powerless, right? And feeling helpless, to being able to actually have the tools to look inward, even when it feels like it's an internal warfare, right? Or even if it feels like just a muddy mess of emotions that you can't untangle. This that I'm going to go through with you is going to help you untangle it so that it's not so scary to go inward. And you'll hopefully see, and you already intuitively know, but hopefully you'll see by the end of this that when you go inward, that's where your inner strength is rebuilt. That's where your inner assuredness is rebuilt. That's where you can finally soften and quiet the thoughts that are probably, yeah, driving you crazy, right? So that's what I mean by healing requires internal shifts. Because answers don't always actually heal anything. And that can be a blow. Believe me, that can be a blow to the part of us that is like, if he admits and I know exactly what happened, I'll feel better. Sadly, 9.9 times out of 10, that doesn't happen, right? And ultimatums, right? Stop doing this or else, right? Or I'm going to leave or else. I get it. That's a part of you still trying to protect you, right? Trying to hopefully overpower somebody who, in a way, has momentarily stripped away your power, right? Maybe an ultimatum can get me back in the driver's seat. Maybe I can feel a little bit more in control. Totally makes sense. But again, unfortunately, it doesn't actually get you what you're fully wanting, right? But shifting through this is what's going to help you actually feel more calm and like something's actually feeling like it's getting resolved within you. So the shifts today that we're going to be talking about, they're going to help you separate the shame from pain. And it's going to help you really kind of get it and understand what that means. It's going to help you create safety before decisions. So I get it. It feels like I need to stay or I need to go. Or, oh my God, how do I make this work? We need to go to couples therapy. We need to do this. We need to do that. No, 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 no. I got to get out of here. I'm packing my stuff, right? I'm packing his stuff. We're out of here. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, this kind of hurt obviously creates a mass amount of reactive behavior, rightfully so. But what if we just slow it down a little bit so that you can actually make a decision that you just know is really conscious and self-led, which is protective of you. Last thing you want or I want is for you to make a decision that possibly, might be more damaging. And you have the internal wisdom to really sit with what is the right path for me. Okay. So this workshop won't tell you what to do in your relationship right now. Again, I know there's a part of you that maybe just wants answers. This workshop's not built to say leave them or stay. Not at all. But it is about rebuilding yourself first. And you're going to hear me just keep repeating that because that is where I work from. That is how I've helped hundreds of people transform relational trauma, abandoned trauma, rejection trauma, betrayal trauma, either from childhood or previous relationships, right? Narcissistic abuse trauma. That's what I'm able to help people with. And it's these shifts that make that so. So shift one. Also, grab pen and paper if you haven't already. But of course, you'll have the replay. So shift one is to go from what's wrong with me to parts of me were shattered. And this is extremely important to understand the difference. So I'm sure if you're like anyone else I've talked to, there is a part of you that does immediately go to, what did I do wrong? Right? How did I create this? Maybe it is my fault. Maybe I wasn't enough. If there was one phrase that I could say encapsulates this whole pain that I see in my DMs and comments and from my clients, is why wasn't I enough? And the truth is, whether you get there on your own or you do allow me to say it to you and you absorb it as you were enough, you truly were enough. You are enough. It just means that he had his own stuff that he couldn't deal with and he couldn't communicate about, right? But you were enough. And how you can get there is through this shift, is to actually recognize that parts of me were shattered. So you're going to hear me say the word part all the time, and I'm going to quickly reference why. So I specialize in a special form of trauma therapy called internal family systems therapy, or IFS therapy. Some of you may have heard about it, some of you maybe not. It's sometimes also casually known as parts work. So IFS therapy allows you to go to all the parts of your psyche that are affected by an event, by hurt, by behaviors of others. And you're going to start to learn that everything's a protection mechanism, right? Not a coping mechanism, not a survival strategy. Everything is a protection mechanism. And so what helps is when you can start to shift from, I'm not enough, I must be the problem. Why am I guilting myself here? I feel completely devastated. I have lost all trust, right? These big I statements or me statements or I am statements, right? Taking full ownership of the experience and putting it all into one encompassed being actually creates a lot of pain. It doesn't really seem like there's a way out if all of me is devastated, or if all of me will never trust again, or if all of me self-doubts, or if all of me thinks that it's my fault, right? So thankfully, the work I do in IFS and this workshop is going to show you that you have parts of you that were shattered. And why this matters is because underneath all those parts of you, there is a wholeness. There is what we call a capital S self. There is a you that isn't a part. There is the higher conscious you. Now, a lot of you maybe have actually gotten to this place, right? This kind of hurt can really push you into healing and transcendence, right? But if you're not there yet, this is the beginning, is realizing that underneath all of these hurt parts, there is a whole self. And even the relief that you can actually allow yourself to feel by taking a moment, recognizing the complexity of this event, and stop personalizing the betrayal, which is when you're using I am statements, right? And start locating where the pain actually is. And this is what we're going to work on today. So being able to actually say, you know, a part of me, yeah, I can hear that one loudly. A part of me will never trust again. Or, yeah, interesting. Like, I'm actually usually pretty confident and self-assured, but right now there's a part of me that is totally in self-doubt. Or, yeah, I can hear a part of me just ruminating over our last argument. And yeah, I said some hurtful things, and maybe that was why, right? And so even the moment over coffee with your friend, you can hear yourself say the word part. This work actually shows you that it's a real part. It's a real, true part of you doing something. So when you can separate the part that is hurt and reactive from the whole self, that is the first shift that is so important. Okay. Because it goes into everyday life. I'm a people pleaser. I'm a control freak. I am a basket case. I am a type A doer. I am whatever, right? Anything that you can think of that you have described yourself as, I am, you get to strip that away and now say, yeah, parts of me get into control. Parts of me are super jealous. Parts of me get really easily overwhelmed. Parts of me are anxious, right? So that's a really common one is, oh my God, like I'm such an anxious person. So besides just betrayal and what you're going through right now in the immediate moment, in your everyday life, you start to realize, interesting. Yeah, I said I am in so many ways. But when you actually start to say, yeah, part of me holds anxiety for me, or uses anxiety for me, or is carrying anxiety for me, that shifts. So even take a moment right now and just kind of breathe into the idea. Yeah, it's not all of me. Why that makes sense is because you can hear the voice that says, we got to go. And another part that says, but I love him so much. Right? That's something we call polarization. But that helps you actually tangibly see that it's not all of you. because you can prove to yourself that, yeah, one part of me thinks this and wants this, and one part of me thinks this and wants that. Right. So it kind of hopefully makes that really tangible. And for some, that's a breath of relief. So when you're wrapped up in the belief that it's all of you, uh, the thing that helps, as I've been describing, is that you can name the parts of you that are hurt. Right? You can actually say, yeah, this part of me is X. This really brought up that abandonment. Right? Oh my God, this part is actually, this totally reminds me of my ex. Right? Or you might even sense that you're shut down. Right? By the graces of whomever above us or around us or the universe or God, whatever works for you, we're here today. I had the wherewithal to actually show up, click the link and show up. But usually I'm dissociated AF, right? Or I am so numb, right? Or I can barely see past my rage. Like I see red the moment I go to bed and the moment I wake up, right? But you can actually start to name those parts. There is a part that is protecting me so hard. It doesn't want me to feel this shame and this betrayal and this level of hurt. So it numbs me, right? Or I get so angry because it is going to fight tooth or nail to help you not feel this way, right? Or demand answers. Or the part of you that is going to question and investigate and constantly scroll their social media or go through their phone or whatever it might be. That part of you is desperately trying to protect you. Okay. And that's why when we can actually start to name them, it makes sense. Because the basis of so much of this fear, if this makes sense, is the basis of this betrayal is fear. And we fear what we don't understand. We fear what we don't get, right? That bump in the night or that shadow in the corner or back in the caveman days, what's around the bush? Is it a lion? Is it a snake? So fear drives all of this pain. And fear is just because we don't understand something. And a lot of it internally is we fear that we won't be able to handle a lot of the pain, right? If that resonates. So that's where your parts have learned to help you. Well, yeah, we don't think you can handle it, so let's numb you out. Let's just doom scroll. Let's research betrayal. Let's research narcissism. Let's research infidelity, right? Let's get every book we can. Let's join every workshop we can. Uh, the part that gets into rage or anger or passive aggressiveness or whatever it might be, they're all trying to protect you. So even in this moment, you might be able to sense, even while we're talking, you can usually sense something. There might be a part of you nodding at you, yeah, that's what's happening. Because your system's finally becoming aware, like, oh yeah, okay, there's stuff happening inside of me that I haven't been able to make sense of. Maybe until now. Is that yeah, there's this part of me taking over to protect me. And honestly, that's so noble. So noble. And what's cool is when you can look at it and be like, wow, that's coming from within me. Without me even doing anything, my system is trying to protect me. And I like to say protection is love, right? We love what we protect and we protect what we love. And so that means that there's self-love in there. And when there's self-love in there, it kind of proves to you that you're enough. You can't be enough, right? Like it would make no real sense. You can't feel like you're not enough if you loved yourself, right? Something to think about. The bottom line, when parts are named, overwhelm oftentimes drops dramatically. And why is this? Even right now, in this moment, if you're watching right now, if you're with me right now, or if you're listening later, sit and see if you can name one part right now. Take your time. I'm going to be silent for a moment. Doesn't have to be complex. You can just say, yeah, what part of me is really hurting right now? And you might sense something. You might hear a small answer, right? Even if it's like an overwhelming, I can't believe they did this, right? There's your mournful part. right? Or you're hearing a tone like that fucker. Good. Rage, right? Anger. Okay. Yeah, you're here, right? Or numb. You're like, I don't know. I'm not even thinking about anything. I can't really think straight. I don't know. I feel just kind of like frozen. Okay. Then you can name your numb part, right? When you name a part, it usually softens. So I'm going to slow it down before we jump into the next shift. So just taking a moment, reflect on this experience that you've had. If you have a pen and paper next to you, I suggest you try this. Is see even if briefly you can name some of the parts that have been activated. Maybe it's a people pleaser part. Maybe kind of sounds like I said people pleaser fart. People pleaser part. Maybe it's the fawning, right? Maybe it's rage. Maybe it's anger. Maybe it's my walls have gone up, right? So the I kind of call it my fortress part. Right? Maybe that's up, right? Investigator part. Whatever it might be, whatever you can sense. And a part, the easy little trick here is a part shows itself as behavior, right? It shows as the ruminating thoughts. Your thoughts are almost like a part speaking to you, right? So if you can kind of listen to what are the regular like thoughts you're having, that's the part. And so take a moment, maybe list out one or two parts that you recognize have actually been really activated because of this hurt. And then maybe take a deep breath. So far, I've already thrown a lot at you. So let's slow it down. So if you're able to write something down, perfect. If not, not a problem at all, right? Something will maybe come to you later. So we're going to move on to shift two. So shift two is from I need to decide right now to I need safety before answers. So this goes back to the beginning of what we're really talking about, that it creates that urgency. And sometimes we have to make, fast real-time decisions. I mean, admittedly, maybe there is a sense of danger about this, right? I mean, only like, and this is a really devastating side of it to some, is maybe it also just fosters an extremely unhealthy environment. Maybe there is some physical safety stuff here. Your system's like obviously trying to act like we gotta go. Where's the exit? Rightfully so. But in my opinion, slowing down and finding some of the safety is always going to serve you. Always. Because urgency is a trauma response. Everything feels so important, right? Everything feels right now, right? And if you have any kind of experience of your own hurt and trauma, you might recognize that in your day-to-day life before the betrayal, right? That, oh my God, I'm late. Everything's urgent. Oh my God, the kids just did this. Well, that look that you just did. Wow, what is that? It feels like, ugh, right? That's my scientific way of describing what urgency feels like. Because that's me. I mean, I've got complex PTSD and I've done oodles of healing, right? But I can feel it. Somebody doesn't get back to me through text, and I was left on red, right? A part of me is like, and so there's urgency. So that's what I mean by urgency, right? And unfortunately, urgency does take away intuition, right? What is truly good for me? What is the path that I actually need right now, right? So, how do we get that? How do we start to find that safety internally before making decisions? Starts with shift one, and now starts with shift two. Because you can't decide anything very clearly when you're dysregulated, right? I'm sure you've all been there. Maybe you do panic and you all of a sudden begin the spiral of investigating, or you fly into the rage and that shuts him down and you're not going to get any answers, or he rages back and now you've just gone into a blown up fight and you've gotten no more clear on anything and you're even more stressed and even more hurt, right? So the dysregulation, I mean, very common term. I get it. And I use this term to frankly resonate because a lot of us are like, yeah, I was dysregulated. Passionately, it's not like a dysregulation. Your nervous system's actually acting according to plan. Again, when we talk about self-protection, it's trying to help you shut down, numb, get into anger, investigate, question, push, blame, shame, right? Turn it around, even self-doubt, self-criticism. All of that, oddly, it's all there to try to protect you from the deep, 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 deep hurt that you've just experienced. So it really messes with you because it is a threat, right? And how is it a threat? Well, what was just taken from you? Your relationship, your memories, the sanctity of your home. He was your safe place, or they were your safe place, or she was your safe place, right? They were home to you. And now that home just got torn down by a tornado. And so for so many of us, I mean, any human, we need safety. We all need safety. If we have an experience with childhood trauma and betrayal and abandonment and all that stemming from childhood or adult years, right? Parents got divorced or parental affairs and whatever kind of abandonment that you might have experienced as a kid, it just comes front and center with this kind of betrayal. Or like I said, this is your first time really being betrayed. Everything just is like a car slamming into you, right? And that's a threat. So it's a threat to your safety. And then you do put pressure on yourself. And so you start trying to make decisions. And that destroys clarity. And so when we can start to really first name our parts and start to kind of get a sense of like, okay, it's this part of me, and I can actually feel a bit of a almost like I can take a breath again. That's something that I'm always told by clients and people in DMs and stuff is, yeah, it feels like I can take a breath, right? Because maybe you can unblend from the part of you that is keeping your shoulders up around and bracing and like not able to take a breath. By naming it, you can usually soften. So yeah, maybe you can take a breath for the first time in a long time. And that's what restores access to that true you, the capital S self. So there's a lot of different ways that you can continue to build internal safety. We're going to do a little exercise in a moment. Daily exercise that from this workshop, I encourage you to actually try. Okay. So it's about creating safety first, making decisions later. I hope maybe hearing that out loud in a way helps. So shift 3, buzzing along. You guys are doing amazing. Okay. Shift 3, really common, is he needs to fix this. Right? It's his problem. It's the mess he made. 100% true. 100% true. But living in that, again, takes away your power. So it has to go from he needs to fix this to I'm rebuilding me first. Because truly, your healing can't depend on his behavior. Your healing can't be dependent even on his actions, let alone his words. And I understand if that maybe feels maybe intimidating, right? Maybe you do have a pattern of that kind of external validation, and not in the way that it's usually thrown around. But maybe you've never maybe really known inner safety, and our partner maybe has always been able to create that for us, right? Or create it for you. And so again, that's why it hurts so much because that's stripped away. But when you can really lean in to the knowing and understanding that there's nothing that he can actually really do to take away all of this pain because it's already been done. The pain and the thing and the event has already happened. And chances are why it's also so painful is you haven't had a safe place to actually let this all out in a genuine, conscious way. I hope you've had friends and family to lean on, but some have shame and they don't want to lean on friends and family. So they're holding it in. Or they've leaned on friends and family so much, the friends and family are now getting tired of it, right? Just leave them then. I get that all the time. And that's super unsupportive. Makes sense why they're just like, come on. Like, I don't know what to say. Leave them. Right. And that just then reinstills more shame and like self guilt and all this stuff. Right. So, as you can kind of tell, when we can start naming the parts of us and when we can start to really separate the urgency, start to get quiet and create that inner safety, we can actually start to rebuild ourselves first. And I bet you can imagine, and maybe some of you are here already, is there is so much power in being like, doesn't matter what you say or do. The hurt's done, right? So either where do we go from here, or where do I go from here? And that doesn't have to be the urgent decision, but at least you being able to name it is so important. And also, it's like banging your head against a brick wall because I bet some of you have had their partner be like, I don't know how to fix this, or I just want to fix this. Maybe they're trying to make amends. But why it never lands, like why you're constantly still on edge. Because again, let's say it's been 6 months, 2 years, a year, 5 years. Why you're still on edge is because you have unconsciously been hoping that he could actually fix it. Right? Does that make sense? And that's why you're still so unsettled, is because parts of you are like, we're flailing here. But once you go inside and you go inward, all of a sudden it starts clicking. You start feeling self-assured and like, okay, right, I got this. So when you can actually embody this, it makes seriously the world of difference. It also helps you separate from the parts of you that are worried about his feelings. It helps you separate from the parts that are worried about the fallout. Who else will be affected? It's okay. You got to, logically think of some things, especially if you have kids. But there might be parts of you that are worried about what others will think, right? What will they say? And so, again, shift one, when you can notice those parts, noticing usually softens them, and then that voice doesn't get as loud. So, as I've been talking about this shift from going, he needs to fix this, to I'm building myself first, it helps rebuild and restore your power, right? Your confidence, right? Your agency. Like, what is good for me? What feels right to me? So, by doing this, it also creates boundaries without blowups, right? And when I said earlier, like ultimatums, less monitoring and testing him and obsessing over every word and detail and fact, right? Trying to catch him in lies, right? Um, Again, kudos to that part of you that becomes an amazing attorney, right? Putting him on trial. That's good. I mean, hey, cross-examine. But at some point, you also start to realize, like, I'm not really getting any relief from this, right? So when you start to take the energy that you're putting out in trying to have him fix it and go inward, self-trust actually does start to come back online. And this is really key. Yeah. And I've seen this too many times, unfortunately, is that sense of waiting, right? Like waiting for him just to change or waiting for it to not hurt as much. I don't know if that resonates, but so many of my clients eventually get depleted and are so tired of just waiting. And thankfully, when you stop waiting and you start reflecting and you start going inward and you start healing, then you don't wait any longer, right? You actually start leading yourself through this. And that's the type of empowerment that you all deserve. Um, and it's like any of you who maybe are waiting for an apology from your parents. Not to bring like childhood into this, but you can start to sense like when I sit here and wait for others to make me feel better, I could be waiting a long fucking time. And that is no place to live. Right. So doing this work, you also start to get that internal wisdom and that internal strength that not waiting just becomes a natural outcome. Right. You take one step forward, you make one action, you do say the one thing, you put up the one boundary consciously. Right. You do something that feels good for you one step at a time. So far, I hope that resonated. Those are the three shifts. Now, of course, inside of my deep coaching program or inside of your therapy office or what have you, those shifts get integrated in so many different kinds of ways. I mean, of course, for a simple workshop, I'm touching on as much depth as I can without too much, to really give you that idea that that is truly, my friend, where you need to start. Those three shifts are integral to you actually feeling better. Let's take a moment before we do this exercise. Just kind of breathe, right? You're here. Maybe if you can give a little awareness to maybe parts of your body that have been tense this whole time, and see if there's like an energy in your body that just needs you to like focus on it, even just for a second. Maybe just like loosen your shoulders or take a deep breath. Maybe unclench your jaw. I know a lot of anger lives in the jaw. Maybe there's a feeling over your heart right now that you're noticing for the first time, or it's been here the whole time. But maybe if you can notice it, again, that might just soften it a little bit. So this is a practice that I give my clients, and I want you to have it, is a daily grounding exercise that really, to me, builds inner safety. And it starts with these simple 4 questions. You can do it with pen and paper, or you can just write them out and then say them in your mind and sit with it, right? Is what feels unsafe today? And we use the word today because, hey, we're in the present moment. So in this moment, what feels unsafe today? You don't have to answer it right now, or you can. And then asking yourself, what feels uncertain? Because, of course, this has created so much uncertainty in a lot of ways. And that uncertainty will be unique to you. Right? It might not even be, do I stay or go? Maybe there's an uncertainty around something else. And so even just asking that question, what feels uncertain? That can really help you explore what needs to be explored. What do I need right now? And that's a really important question. Because frankly, a need is a need. A need is what makes us human. And unmet needs is what really keeps us in pain and suffering. And so this allows you to actually slow down and think about, what do I need right now? I mean, literally, is it I need more rest or I need to eat? My God, I haven't eaten in a day, right? Or maybe I need to get outside and get fresh air. Maybe I need to do what this workshop is saying. Like maybe I need to just go inward for a moment and slow down. Maybe I need to meditate, whatever it might be. But when you can actually just stop and ask yourself, super simple question, but what do I need right now? A tip. If you hear, I need him to fix this, thank that part for showing up, right? Like, thank you. No, I hear you. I know it sounds kind of silly. A lot of the work I do with parts work, it is learning how to actually truly communicate with yourself. But now that you maybe notice that part come through, you can be like, yeah, no, I know you'd really like answers. I fully feel that. I do. Say, how about for now, though, let's do something that we can control. Do you want to try that? And you might notice, like, okay, right. And then which part of me needs reassurance? Not all parts of you need reassurance, right? Some know damn well how they feel and they don't need anything from anybody. Totally cool. But there are going to be parts of you that do need some reassurance. What might that look like to you? What might that part need as reassurance? Maybe reassurance looks like tell us we're going to be okay, right? Maybe reassurance is that gentle voice that comes from within you that says it wasn't our fault. Maybe it's the energy of knowing that you're not to blame. And that part of you that is blaming itself needs that reassurance. So when you do this, it grows clarity and that creates safety, especially if you can practice this daily. So I hope so far that lands. Right? I hope it feels safe to consider these 4 questions. So when the shifts finally click, believe me on the workshop, maybe this seems still a little far-fetched, or maybe it's like, I don't know, right? Maybe you're fully blended with the part of you that truly believes he needs to fix it. Or you're blended with the part of you that truly knows that you got to go, right? Or you're fully blended with the part of you that's like, I'm going to stay and make it work, whatever it might be. When I say the word blended, that's because that part is in the driver's seat right now, and that is okay. But there will be that light in you that can actually take what is shared today and separate from that part that is fully blended with you. And so when the shifts actually click, you'll feel it. Panic will soften, that urgency, like will slow down. Um, Shame will loosen. You won't feel so bereft, so isolated and like an idiot, or like you should have seen this coming, or why didn't I stand up for myself? Why didn't I say more? That's all shame based. I should have. A quick tip is if you're ever shoulding yourself, should is shame. I should have known better. I should do this. I should try this. I should. And even he should. I'm still shaming him. And it just keeps you in that cycle of pain. And so these 3 shifts help you slow down, makes decision making more clear. And I do know from experience, and even though it might feel like a little bit outside of reality, is self-trust rebuilds. Or maybe I'm speaking to somebody who absolutely already fully trusts themselves. That's beautiful, right? But for so many of us, it actually starts to hurt self-trust because then we start to think, did we betray ourselves, right? Did we call for this? Did we ask for this? Did we attract this? And those questions come from a lack of trust in self, right? So again, the bottom line is this is where healing actually begins. Again, in my professional experience, in my own life, and in all the people that I help with betrayal, is it starts here. These 3 shifts. So take a deep breath. We talked about some heavy stuff. All right. And obviously we knew this isn't a cakewalk, right? But I do hope that there is some relief from this. I do hope that you're sensing, okay, I know this seems very tangible and very doable, or maybe there's a part of you that feels like this is almost too simple, right? Or too far-fetched. Is you really just need to know that you don't need to decide anything today or right now. You don't need to confront. Personally, you absolutely do not need to forgive or figure everything out. Don't have to have the answers. But what matters is that you really consider what was shared today and that you use this slowly. This workshop comes with a really powerful PDF guidebook. It's going to take everything we talked about and it kind of makes it, I hope, right, very digestible, very interactive. So you can actually do everything that I've been talking about. There's going to be a ton of exercises, a ton of reflections. I think it'll help you make more sense of what you're going through and what this workshop shares. Practice that safety check-in daily. Really commit. right? Commit to yourself. Once you commit to yourself, his lack of commitment to you becomes less painful, truly. And then just notice that urgency without obeying it, right? Not having to almost succumb to yourself and that urgency. So healing, in my opinion, does happen when you do feel safe enough, right? To tell the truth, right? Tell your truth, speak your truth. And truth might be, who am I actually? Right? This relationship wasn't for me, and this has been a gift. Or, wow, I can really see what I'm made of and how I stand up for myself, right? And believe me, I'm a fan of love. And I will say this vulnerably. I've cheated. I have changed my ways. Not on my current wife. I know what it's like to actually shift and to actually change and to actually heal. I hope that for them because I am a believer in love. I love relationships that work, right? I love kids that are in stable homes and able to know that two parents had troubles and issues and big issues, but they work through it. Ideally, by all means, but it takes two people, and you're not able to do it all. Okay, it is not all on you. So yes, my hope is that maybe he or they find their way. But today was about you. So if you need support at all, okay, my inbox is open. I answer every email. Um, you don't have to be a client of mine to reach out. Okay. You've been getting my emails. If you need help, if you have questions, if you want clarity, I encourage you to reach out, right? You don't have to be alone with this. And sometimes it's nice to go to an objective, independent, almost third party, so to speak, right? That isn't connected to you and the community and the friends and the family, you know? Um, that can itself be really safe to finally just be like, well, and to know that you're not going to get judged or shamed. And I'm going to give you real guidance. Okay. So thank you so much for today and for being here. One last reminder is you don't have to decide anything today. You just have to come back to yourself. And you might hear it a lot, but you're not broken. You are responding to heartbreak. So the light in me sees the light in you. Thank you again so much for being here. And I hope you have a really beautiful rest of the day. And again, I encourage you to reach out. And I really appreciate you being here.